number 2 last night over the Wizards, but it was despite another tough night at a James Harden. We talked yesterday about Harden being the poster boy for those new NBA rules, NBA's new rules. Finished with 14 points last night. He was just 1 of 8 from deep. He only got to the line 3 times. It's been a troubling early season trend for Harden. He's not getting the calls to get to the line like he used to. Points per game down a full 12 points off his career average. The almost 7 fewer free throws per game, a big part of that. So, Antoine, should the Nets be worried about Harden's ability to adapt to the new rules?
I don't think they should be worried. I mean, I've been very critical of James Harden, over the last year and a half. But one thing I can say is that he's probably arguably the best one-on-one player, at least top 5 all time. So he'll figure it out on the offensive end and be able to get to the foul line back the way he used to. I think with James Harden, it's about getting his legs up under him. If you really think about it, his three-point shot is off. That come from legs. I think also getting to the basket and being able to finish and not look for fouls. That comes from having, getting his legs up under him as well. We're only 4 games in, so I'm not going to go too hard on him and think that he has to make these massive adjustments because he's going to have the ball in his hands and he'll get better. I like to look at those numbers 20 games into the season and see what James is at, but he'll get back to that. This is a guy that's going to be a future Hall of Famer, one of our best one-on-one players of all time. So he'll figure it out. It's going to take some time because he was one of those guys that benefited from the old rules of being able to use his body and use his legs and get to the foul line, and they're taking that stuff away. So it'll take a little time and adjustments for him, but I think James Harden will be just fine.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll be just fine, and the Nets won't be fine unless he's great. And so he'll be better than he's been because what he's been through 4 games is awful. Nick, you're being too harsh. Well, he literally leads the NBA in turnovers, and he literally is dead last in field goal percentage amongst guys who have taken as many shots as him. So he's turning the ball over more than anyone, and he's missing shots more than anyone. As a wise man once said, that ain't great. And, we can debate whether or not the Nets have a quality top-to-bottom roster. Another time, Broussard and I disagree on that. I think Antoine agrees more on Broussard's side of the equation. But what we all agree on is, with no Kyrie, their path to the finals is very simple. KD and Harden both be superstars. And Harden is right now uphill battle to look like an all-star. And here's the question I would have for you, Broussard. Do you judge Rodney Harrison, to mix sports, differently because he wouldn't have thrived as much in this era? Because I don't. Like, Rodney Harrison played safety at a time where you were allowed to crush people, and the rules changed. He was on his way out of the league. He's still an all-time great safety. Well, what if the rules changed on Harden? And it's going to take a while, if it's at all possible, to adjust. Like, we see it in football and we don't bat an eye. Like, oh, okay, that guy played that way in that era. This is a major change to the league with Harden at the epicenter of it. Why would the expectation be he's going to be the same player when we all recognize getting to the line was what he did better than anyone in the league?
Here's the difference, Nick. Even when Harden was getting to the line under the old rules, people didn't like it. People thought he was darn near cheating, right? That he was forcing contact, that he was a great actor, that he was able to get these calls when he shouldn't have. It's not like you just take out the three-point line or you eliminate the 3-second call in the paint, whatever you want. Those are different than the feeling was he was getting away with murder anyway, so to speak. And now you take that away, and he's not the same player. Look, if James Harden falls off the way you seem to think he will, Nick, I mean, this is like the Wizard of Oz when they found out the Wizard of Oz really wasn't all that. I mean, really, like, if we find out that James Harden really is like, he's an all-star, but he really ain't all that. I mean, this is huge, and I agree with you. The Nets would be in deep trouble. I'm more with Twine. I think it's Harden even said after the 2 games ago, I don't have my confidence back yet. And I think that's about the hamstring. That was his first major injury of his career. When he did come back last year in the playoffs, he re-injured it, and he hasn't been the same player since. He's tentative. He's not looking for his shot as much. He's not able to finish as well. So I think once he gets his full confidence back in his legs, Nick, then he will be the guy or very close to the guy he's been for the last decade. I have full confidence in that, Wiles. And if he isn't, my, oh, my.
I know it's dangerous. Well, it's a two-front attack on his game, right? So they're taking away his sort of like spread his legs three-pointer foul. And just to put some numbers behind it, courtesy of Dusty, since Harden joined the Rocket, he drew 484 fouls on threes. That's more than Dame and Steph combined. So this wasn't just like, oh, he's a little bit more than the next best guy. It's like he's more than Steph and Dame combined. The other thing is going to the hoop and doing these like little rip-through moves where he's actually got moves designed to draw fouls. So, Antoine, my question for you is this. How much of that is decision-making where it's like, all right, I can't do that anymore? And how much of it is muscle memory? When he gets to when he drives, like he's just so used to doing it that it's muscle memory and he's not going to be able to adapt as fast enough, no matter how much he knows that the refs are calling it differently.
I mean, he's a unique player. These are moves that he's practiced, and that may have some truth to it. These are moves that he's practiced for the last 6-7 years, being one of the most dynamic scorers in the leagues. And obviously he's got to change up some things. So I do think that has a little truth to it. And just to add on to it, I think, you know, for Harden, it's got to be a mental thing, too. He has to understand that, and that he has to be that guy again. This has to be 25 to 30 points a night. They don't have Kyrie. And I think that's what Brooklyn did a terrific job of not allowing Kyrie to come in and out the lineup. Harden's got to go back to being James Harden, MVP James Harden. He has to take on that responsibility and go along KD and put up big numbers. This is not the same team without Kyrie. That's a big missing piece from top to bottom, and they need him to be aggressive.
And I want to add one other thing about what Wildes was saying, which is Harden had manicured his game in such a brilliant way. Now, forget the three-point fouls, which he was better than anyone ever at drawing them. I feel like one of the reasons he was so successful on plays he didn't get fouled, drives to the basket, was because guys were afraid to foul him. And so I just think there is a domino effect of he's not getting to the line and he is being defended more effectively because guys are not as afraid that he's going to get one of these jabroni fouls that he perfected. I don't judge it. The goal of athletes, Broussard, is to figure out the rules of their sport and how the most effective they can be within them. I don't negatively historically judge him for basically breaking the rules, not breaking the rules, breaking the system in a way that benefited him more than anyone ever. I think it shows a basketball brilliance, but I also think that it is incredibly difficult to change things up after you've done it this way for a decade. And for almost everyone else, it's the opposite. It's like, oh, I now am more comfortable because I have to guard every great wing scorer one way. And then when Harden comes to town, I got to deal with all this nonsense. And they got to remind me he's not even going to try to score. He's going to try to do this stuff. And again, that's not it. You know how high I've spoken of James Harden's skill level. I just think this is a specific thing that is going to be incredibly damaging for him. And through 4 games, it obviously has been.
I am dismissing all of the praise you've given Harden in the past. It's gone. All right? You clearly think that under the new rules, he's Spencer Dinwiddie or Dennis Schroeder.
No,
you don't think he's special anymore. You don't think he's special anymore. That's what it sounds like you're saying. He is still special.
You used a guy the other day. Hold on, just real quick. You used a guy the other day. You said Zach LaVine. And he's obviously a far better passer than LaVine. I don't know if under the new rules he'll be as good of a scorer. I do think there's a chance that under the new rules, James Harden's an all-star and not close to an MVP candidate. And Broussard, I think that screws the Nets.